Let's talk let's talk
man.
some Angels.
Yeah, this was a brutal week for the Angels. So let's get started with our making a statement, okay? I'm going to give Ben some hefty statements here. He's going to say if it's an overreaction or not, if he agrees with it. And yeah, we got to start with the Angels. And our very first statement is the Angels' injuries will drop them out of the wild card race.
I don't really see how the answer could be that they're going to make the playoffs right now. I don't. And Anthony Rendon goes down. This all happened on 4th of July. Anthony Rendon and Ohtani comes out of the game with the fingernail, neither of which are serious, right? Anthony Rendon supposed to return to the lineup by this weekend. Shohei is probably just not going to throw until after the All-Star game now, so that little break in there.
We're not going to see him pitch in
He won't pitch in the All-Star game. But Mike Trout, with the hamate bone in his hand, just got surgery on Wednesday, and due to that, he's going to be out. The typical return for a hamate bone injury is 4 to 8 weeks, but I've seen this happen many times on players that I'm teammates with. I mean, we're looking closer to the 2-month mark here. I mean, I don't see him back in 4 weeks. It's a bad injury. It's very uncomfortable.
I didn't realize you have to actually get the bone surgically removed.
Yeah.
It's a common injury.
Yeah.
It's just heartbreaking because that's kind of been the downfall of Trout the last couple of years. He's one of the greatest in the game, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy. And the best ability is availability. And the only way the Angels are going to make a run or even have a chance to make it to the postseason is if Mike Trout is healthy.
Yeah. So it's a sucky injury, and if it's right here at the bottom of your hand, and it's almost like a hook, but it's right where the knob of your bat on your left hand sits. It's right where the knob of the bat is. So it happened for him on a swing and a miss or a foul ball back, and you have all of that pressure when you think you're going to hit the ball. You have all that pressure right here on your hand, and it's just I've seen it way too many times, and it's going to be it's not a terrible injury. It's just annoying. It involves surgery, and now it's going to be. I think we're looking close to 2 months without Mike Trout. So I look, they're already in jeopardy of dropping out of the wild card race quickly. I mean, we were talking on June 19th, they were in second in the wild card race.
Yeah.
We're talking a couple of weeks ago. And now fast forward to July 6th, and they're 4 games out of a wild card spot. They're 7 games out of the division spot, and they're dropping quite quickly. They've lost 7 of their last 10 games. Mm-hmm. And look, is Mickey Moniak having a good year to step in and replace Trout? Sure. Can Joe Adell possibly be a guy that turns it on and is successful? Sure. But we're talking Mike Trout.
Yeah.
This Angels team, despite how good Shohei Ohtani is, who's maybe the greatest talent the game of baseball has ever seen, the Angels, it's Mike Trout. You know, he's one of the greatest of all time. And without him, I struggle to see how they stay in this playoff race in an American League where you're having to keep up with all those AL East teams, the Astros or Rangers, whoever doesn't win that division.
The Astros are heating up right now.
Astros
They're slowly catching the Rangers.
I struggle to see a spot for them without Mike Trout, who is the heart and soul of that team.
It's brutal, which is going to lead us to our next statement, because I think the Angels' biggest concern this season was you need to make it to the postseason in order to keep Shohei Ohtani. So let's move on to our next statement. Shohei Ohtani will be traded this season. We're getting to that point.
I mean, I would have said before the season, right? If you are not in playoff contention come the trade deadline, you have to trade him.
You have to.
You have to. But then this season starts off. They're playing pretty good baseball. Again, June 19th, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. They're in second in the wild card race. They're looking good. They're playing really good baseball. They were on a win streak. Then they start struggling a little bit, which is what you can't, especially you have 30 days left. When the calendar hits July, you have 30 days to make your decision of what you're going to be. Are you going to be buyers? Are you going to be sellers? And then they start struggling. The end of June, early July, they're struggling. And then you have just an awful 4th of July where it just felt like 4th of July for the Angels was a sign of like, look, all those injuries happening at the same time. Only one of the three was
the same week.
Significant.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I truly believe, I now believe you have to trade Shohei Ohtani. You have to. And first off, I feel like we hear that a lot now, and I feel like that's been the common response over the last few days. But let me just explain for a second why you have to trade Shohei Ohtani, because that's, what does that mean? Well, Shohei is on the last year of his contract, right? Ken Rosenthal was on the show a couple of weeks ago, and without saying it's 100%, he pretty much said Shohei ain't re-signing with the Angels. It's just not going to happen. So you have 3 months left of looking at the trade deadline. You'll have 3 months of a player that's one of the greatest players of all time, the most talented player we've seen in forever, on your team. And if you don't make the playoffs, he's gone. At the first week of October, he's gone. So what I mean by you have to get something for him is if you trade him right now or at the trade deadline, even though he's a, quote, rental, meaning you're only going to get him for a few months because his contract's up, you're going to get major league quality talent right now, and you're going to get top prospects right now. Now, does that mean every trade is going to work out like James Shields to the White Sox and Fernando Tatis back in return to the Padres? No, that's not how every trade works. There's disparity here, and sometimes it hits and sometimes it misses. But when you're trading a guy like Shohei Ohtani, it more so guarantees you success from somebody, because we're not talking some 16-year-old prospect that's the number 3 prospect in the organization. We're talking current big league proven talent, and we're talking the 1 and 2 prospects in an organization that we know are going to be successful. It's just a matter of when do you call them up. So is it a guarantee you get a great return? No, but it's much more of a guarantee. So I just think if I'm fantasy GM for a day, I wake up and I come to the conclusion that I'd rather set up my franchise for the last decade plus than enjoy another 3 months of Shohei Ohtani. I mean, what are you getting from that? You're getting better crowds. You can keep running the Shohei promotions that you do that get sellout crowds because everybody wants Shohei stuff. You can keep selling his jerseys in the shop. But that's 3 months. What would the fan base say? The fan base would say, look, we set us up for the next decade. If Shohei's not going to return, set us up for the next 10 years. We have to do that. You can't have Shohei for this period of time of over half a decade and end up in 2023, it all coming to an end and getting absolutely nothing in return for that player.